this next section is going to be on Google Meet. So there's a few ways to get to Google Meet. The first way is to go to your little waffle and then find Meet and click on it. Now you can start a new meeting right here, and you can either create a meeting for later, and that way you can get a link and you can send that link to somebody. You can start an instant meeting and you can invite people as well, or you can schedule in Google Calendar. So that's one way of doing that. I'm going to start an instant meeting here in just a second, but I just also wanted to show you what you can do with Google Calendar. You can also go ahead and um, set up a meet. You can add a time. We'll go ahead and add that time right there. And then you can add Google Meet video conferencing, and you can add guests. And so your guests, you can add all your whole class. If you've got them in your contacts, they'll show up that way. And then you just click save. Now you can start the meet anytime that you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and start this meet this way. And I can just join with Google Meet. Or I can go, well, oh, there's one other way. You can also create a Meet link in Google Classroom. Now that wouldn't work great if it was students in your domain. However, it doesn't work. Nobody that is outside of our domain will see this Meet link. So it's not possible for us to use this way of getting to Google Meet with Classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Google Meet. We're going to start an instant meeting. And here it goes. All right. And so I can add other people if I want to. And just want to show you some of the controls. So right here, and you might want to teach your students how to do this, you can have them turn the microphone off when they're not speaking, or they can turn the microphone on. You can turn your camera off, and you can turn your camera on. Now, some teachers like to have a rule about that, whether the students have their cameras on or off. One of the things that I absolutely loved, especially as students had problems with their volume on their Meet, the captioning goes ahead and types out everything that you say or anything that the kids say. And so I've had a couple of meets where students did not have volume. They couldn't hear me or I couldn't hear them, but the captioning worked and we were still able to have our meeting. So also students can raise their hand if they have a question. And then once you call on, and you would see who has their hand raised, but right now I'm the only one on this meet, so you're not going to see that. But I have my hand raised, and what you'll need to do is once you answer the question, they need to make sure that they lower their hand. Okay, if you want students to present or if you want to present, you just click present now. And then you can choose either your entire screen, a window, or a tab. And a tab is the best option if you need to use video. So for example, if you're going to show a YouTube video, you need to make sure that you use the tab. So if you click entire screen, then you would have to click on this screen, and then you click share. And then you'll see that my screen is now being presented. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hide that. And I'm going to stop presenting. So right up here, I'm going to stop presenting. Okay, you've got 3 little dots here with more options. These are some great options. You can do a Jamboard, which is a whiteboard. This helped immensely with math teaching, but there's also other ways that you can use it as well. And so you can have a new whiteboard. It gets shared with all the students that you are on a meet with, and you can create multiple pages. You can write stuff on your whiteboard, so it's very nice. And then anybody can write. Any of the students can write. I had the students write, each student write in a different color so that we knew who that was. And so I would strongly recommend that you use Jamboard. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. All right, so there's some other options right here. You can record your meeting. Now, if I click this, it'll make sure that people know that this meeting is being recorded, and you need to make sure that people understand that it's being recorded so that they give their consent. Once you finish your recording and you hit stop recording, it will show up into your drive. You'll get an email and it'll show up into your drive. You can change the layout of your screen. So right there is auto tiled, and it's not going to change mine right now because I'm the only person on here. But you can go ahead and play around with that layout a little bit, and you can make it full screen. You can change the background. I will warn a little bit about the background. The background takes more bandwidth, and so I've had a hard time with the backgrounds. My bandwidth isn't great, and so it just slows down the connection a little bit. Um, so there's my background. The other thing is you can kind of see that you kind of tend to melt into the background just a little bit. So you can um, have so we can also slightly blur our background also, so that's kind of nice. Or you can really blur your background, which is also kind of nice. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then some other options that you have. Here's another way to get to your captions. You can also have people phone in for audio instead of using their computer. You can report a problem, report abuse, troubleshooting, and help. And then you can also go to settings. So I'll go to settings. You have your audio settings. I like this noise cancellation. That's a really nice feature. You have video settings, and then you have host controls. And these are really new. So the quick access, when it's turned off, the host must join first. So if I were using this with a classroom of students, I would most likely turn this off so that I have to join before the students can join. And you can just go ahead and read through those things that when you turn this off, you have control over. If you want students to be able to share their screen, make sure this is turned on. And if you want them to be able to send chat messages, you make sure that this is turned on as well. So chat messages are kind of nice as well. I like them because the chat, so you see the Jamboard link showed up there, and then the chat, they can also ask questions in the chat. So you might need to talk to your students about what's appropriate to put in the chat and what's not. And again, you can turn that on or off right here. So the meeting details are here, and you can copy the joining info and you can send that to people through your email. You can see who everybody is. You can mute everybody. You can add people, and then you can get your host controls here as well. You've got your chat, and all you have to do with your chat is just type and send. So there you go, and that's chat. Then this is also some activities. Breakout rooms are new, and so you can split your groups into smaller groups. You need to set those up, and this might be a reason why you might set this up ahead of time. You could set up your breakout rooms, and so you can have as many rooms as you want. You can set a timer for that. You can shuffle, you can clear. So then you have to type a name or drag it here. So um, I'll put my name in there. So you put your students' names in there, and then you can open your rooms. So this is something you might want to set up ahead of time if you know you're going to use breakout rooms. You can do a poll. You can get a poll from the audience. So you can go ahead and start a poll, and you can put some questions in there and have a little poll on your, it'll show up in your chat. You can do a question and answer. So you can turn on Q&A, lets others ask questions that everyone can see and hear your answers to. You can do a recording from here, and you can also access a whiteboard from here. All right. This one right here is your host controls again, and allowing students to send chat messages or not. And then the last control on here is to just hang up or leave the call. So if you've got your host controls on, you should be able to log out and the students will also be logged off. However, I would strongly recommend that you have the students sign out first and then you stay on for a little bit, then you go off, get back on, because there used to be a little glitch where students could get back on without you. If it was just a few seconds afterwards, they could still get back on. So I would go back on and just check that out and make sure there are no students on there. Some school districts definitely don't like students just doing video meets on their own. Most districts have it set up so students cannot start a meet, that as teacher must start a meet. So you might check on those settings also in your school district. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get off the meet, and that is what Google Meet's all about. Again, on Classroom, we're going to talk about this, or we may have already talked about this by the time you watch this video, about how to generate a Meet link in your classroom. So Google Meet's a really nice and helpful thing. You can even set them up as office hours in the evenings. Maybe you have a particularly difficult um, content and kids are doing their homework or something, and you could set up a half an hour where you might be available on a Meet for students to meet with you if they need to. So that's Google Meet.